Hello and welcome. I'm Tavaragadamu. Awash, the oldest national park in Ethiopia, is in bad shape. For a while now, the damage it sustained made it almost irrelevant as a national treasure. But my guest today, the ecologist Dr. Yirmed Demeke, says hope is not lost. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You're dealing here with one of the oldest national parks in Ethiopia, the Awash National Park. It's one of the parks in this country that I know real well, and it has been and still is a disappointment. It's brought down to nothingness.
That's true. Actually, we are starting now, just considering the loss of this great biodiversity in this national park. These days, our attention is just to start with the government institution, that's the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority, together and the newly established Wildlife Society of Ethiopia, which I am the executive director of that. So we nearly decided to start to rescue this park. The history.
This is very interesting, but I'll come back to that. But when I say there's nothing to save there, don't call me a pessimist, but it's a disappointment in the real sense of the term. I mean, the other day when we were talking off camera, we explored what the number of animals that have disappeared from the Awash National Park landscape. We're talking about Swanis, hartebeest, gravy zebra, greater kudu, ostrich, and redbacks, and so on, and also lions. Are on the brink of extinction in that national park. There's nothing to save there.
That is a very frustrating story that this park was recognized when it was established as a stronghold of the East African oryx, the highest population, nearly reaching about 7,000 at that time. And the Gravis zebra, it was also abundant there, and the Somerings gazelle. Since then, because of the protection system that we followed, or the management system as a whole, through time, the park has become degraded and lost nearly about 7 large species, including the Gravis zebra, the swine's hartebeest, the endemic animal, that only found in nearby Shashimane, that the one of the sanctuary, and ostrich and others, the greater kudu, the mountain ridgeback, something, It is very disappointing, to see these, big animals, disappearing, over this, 50 years' time. So, not only these large ones, imagine how small animals or any creature, how much damage is happening in that, including the vegetation. So, considering all this now, that is the oldest and the historic national park, imagine, that was established along with the Semir Mountains National Park in the 1969. There should be a big campaign not to lose further time of we, all of us, the conservationists and the Ethiopian government, pay attention and to start this the nearest national park.
How would you start? That's my question. You basically don't have anything. You mentioned the oryx. I used to run into them every time and again when I drive past that national park all the way to the east.
Yeah.
And it's sad not to see any one of those, crossing the streets, whatever, even in the national park. It's as if they don't exist. Where will you start?
It demands, the conservationist experts, the professionalism works here. We spent nearly most of our life in wildlife conservation just after the university, and also got further trainings and experience in other African countries. Considering all this, it's possible to reverse these adverse traits that is happening in Awash and also in other national parks, so Ethiopia. We had good experience, just nearly about 4 years. It was a good practice in Awash National Park. And nearly for a year, no domestic animals entered that park. Not only using law enforcement, but dealing with the community, discussion with the community. So using that collaborative wildlife management it demands again, lots of, task force establishment.
I know there is quite a heavy settlement inside the Awash National Park. What do you mean that there is no livestock and so on?
No, these days no permanent settlement in Awash National Park.
You're saying that they have the people who've settled there with their livestock and all the associated things have moved out of the national park, or you've diminished the national park to where it stands today?
No, in Awash, the very good thing is no permanent settlement still. Only, these peoples or local communities drive their cattle and enter into the park, just a daytime grazing, and then took back to their village. So the park is actually surrounded with, nearly about 12 villages. Still, all of them are outside. The inside park that's free of the settlement. But
are you saying that the park is redelineated?
Yes, that was happened just 4 years ago. In the western side, there was no encroachment of villages and other, government infrastructure like clinics, schools. Because of that, the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority decided to redesign,
which means it has shrunk.
Yes, it shrunk. Initially, it was about 756 square kilometers when it was first established. Because of this redemarcation process, it was degraded to about 591 square kilometers.
Well, national parks are shrinking. I mean, look at they've done what they could in the Sime National Park, trying to move out people who've settled there from that park to the nearest towns.
Yes.
But if you go to Bali, a very big livestock and settlement and institutions are being built inside the Bali Mountains National Park. So whatever you're doing here by shrinking the size of this national park, yes, sending the wrong signal to other national parks. Yes, you can settle inside the national park, and this is what you'll get. In other words, the institutions that run the national parks would give in to the demands of the people who have forced themselves in the national parks.
The best thing that we're expected to do was to protect the boundaries of nearly all of our protected areas. But that didn't happen. What you can do is you have to work hard again to protect the remaining protected areas, the areas that we have. The same is true in Awash. We're thinking of expanding the boundary in another directions. There are no options. Crossing the Awash Gorge, something like that. That can be done in negotiation with the Oromia regional government and Afar as well.
Are you talking about the Alai Dege?
Alai Dege is a bit further from Awash, but still there are corridors to connect that, so that the wild animals can move freely, from between these two national parks. That is our plan. In addition to that, just nearby this Awash National Park, there are still places that are good, for our conservation purpose that we can add part of the national park. This will be done in consultation with the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority and the regional governments. That's our plan to start with, and also to restock, the disappeared or the rare animals, and also reintroduce the already extinct animals. That's our plan.
So when you say our plan, I know that you run a business inside the national park. It's the Awash Falls Lodge, which you introduced into the national park when was it about well over 10 years ago. Are you talking in that capacity, or the institution Wildlife Society of Ethiopia? Is that correct?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with this private properties, the lodge, but the civil society organizations, the NGO, Wildlife Society of Ethiopia, can run, and we are going to enter an agreement with the government institutes. We have gone a lot of distance, and hopefully we are in the final stage to do the co-management agreement or shared management under the IUCN criteria. So the lodge can be one of the partners for that. There is also another lodge on the northern part of Awash National Park, which are playing great roles in receiving tourists and to give good service traditionally. those travelers and tourists coming through tour operators from Addis Ababa and around the world. So they are good also for the park as well. Yeah, the park's income to increase, the income of the park as well.
The society, the NGO, is a pretty much recent phenomenon, right? So what have you done thus far?
Yes, this NGO, actually, there was another NGO. Its name is Wildlife for Sustainable Development. It worked nearly for about 8 years. It was established in 2008 when we were doing, elephant research in Bapili at that time. And we did, very practical works both in Bapili and Awash National Park. We do have that experience. Very unlikely that NGO was extinct due to lack of fund and also other things related to that. So this recent NGO has experience and other resources based on that extinct ones. So the experts are around, so there is no problem of just getting expertise. We have also a strong board now that we established.
They involve conservation biologists, ecologists such as yourself and so on. They're real professionals. But I mean, where are you going to start from?
The most important thing is showing commitment to your profession and also positive thinking in this regard. Awash is Ethiopia's highest treasury when you talk about national parks. Without just bringing tangible conservation action in Awash, which is proximity is just very near to Addis, there is nothing to talk about far protected areas like Gambela or whatever. So through collaborative management approach, we already designed that approach with government institutions and other partners as well, donors, fundraisers. We are also establishing, another fundraising, team. Because of that, the only gap we have recently is only raising funds, because we established this NGO very recently in April. Still, we are in a very good move. We got one contact from outside to support us, both Awash and Alaidege National Park, to work together. They are ready to globally to raise fund
for this project.
The motto of risking Awash National Park and protecting the nearby protected areas, including Alaidege Wildlife Reserve.
Where you have the wild ass, right?
Before, wild ass was just to the Somali side, actually there was. But recently there are few or remnant grave zebras, very few in number. We have to also protect these animals as well as the lions. There are many species these days that are on the verge of extinction, like leopard, lions, waterbucks, including oryx. Imagine over the last 40 years, its number is going down nearly from about 7,000 to recently nearly about 200.
The oryx?
The oryx, yes. Similar fates happen for other large mammals. So that's why we have to work hard in a very coordinated way. There's no time to give even for all of us,
Given what you just told me, I'm assuming that international organizations, public/private, that are interested in conservation and have done a great deal elsewhere in the world, are interested in cooperating with you, with the Ethiopian Wildlife Society, which has just entered into a co-management agreement with the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority. Nice. But what is the plan? Where are you going to start from?
To add something on that, WSE already entered into agreement with this international NGO. Its name is Restoring Africa's Wildlife. We already did that bilateral agreement. When the fund is ready, we will do it the tripartite agreement, including the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority. In conserving or protecting any national park or protected areas, there are no criteria or procedures that you have to follow according to the IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Because of that, there are lots of activities that we do. First, to protect at least the core areas for the wildlife.
Maintain that.
Yes, to maintain that free of other intruders, you see, and then expanding further and to respect the boundary of the whole national park. In this case, we should consider the local communities' livelihood situation. Those people who are benefiting from the national park, one of the major activity we are going to do is to support the livelihood, to compensate at least what they lose from this national park.
Because you're not going to build a fence anyway. So.
In some places it's possible actually, but fencing does not the last solution. We know that, but in very few places it works actually. But working and discussing with the local community is the last solution. Local communities have great interest and positive support to any work that the government is doing or whatever NGOs are doing. I do have the experience when I was working in Bapile, in Mago National Park. We were doing discussions thoroughly. So there will be a number one or the leading supporters of your conservation efforts as well.
They could also be detractors. That's what they were or still are in several national parks.
Yes.
So it depends on how.
That is a way how to handle the distance you are operating. When you should not leave a gap with the community or enter into unnecessary or unfulfilled agreement with the community. You have to discuss or tell them the fact or the truth that we can do and the problems that exist in this national park. Then there will be a solution for that. In this time of just a government change, a lot of distraction happened. That didn't have a root of good relation or contact with the local community. At that time, simply chasing or only using law enforcement simply to chase all the time local communities without discussing or convincing them or without letting them benefit from that park. So in Awash, it should be a model and the first to exercise this community support collaborative wildlife management that we have to start.
At least you've never tried that in that park.
Actually,
co-management.
Regarding the discussion and coming together, we did nearly for 1 year. We got a very sound support from federal and regional top government authorities at that time, but that didn't continue because of at that time. There are lots of reasons for that. Anyways, when it comes to our approach, this task force establishment at all levels, everybody will take responsibility and understand about what we are doing, about the values of these national parks. So they easily understand about that. So we use that as a principal approach for our work.
I mean, it's not as if that has never been tried elsewhere in this country. Remember, the Netshab National Park was taken over basically, you would say co-management by African parks.
Yes.
It didn't work out because it was basically a transboundary resource, shared between the southern SNNPR, the southern region, and Oromia regional state, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think this will work here at the Awash National Park?
If you see the root cause of that, it has its own reasons. When we talk about or recall, the African wildlife approach to Netshab and Omo National Park, actually during their operation, they brought a very fantastic change. But because of the government's lose contact and the decision, unable to decide on that timely, we lost those big opportunities. If they were until this time, it would have been a model, I can assure that. When it comes to this Awash, it is, we are Ethiopians and partners from outside. As long as we commit to this plan, it is a 10 years, the first agreement that we proposed, we'll be around that. We will be sacrificing. Conservation work means sacrification. At the same time, losing your life, maybe due to wildlife or whatever another risks coming through, you see. So it's not easy, but it's possible. It's possible to achieve Look, our neighbor countries, just like Kenyans, Tanzanians, South Africa, they are doing, much better work, and they are saving their wildlife resource. They are benefiting, very greatly from that through tourism. So, in our plan, we will start, hopefully, within 6 months' time. We should not be ambitious, but it's possible. We will make most areas of the park free for wildlife and also
Within 6 months, that's
yes, it's possible.
phenomenally ambitious.
Within the 6 months' time, it's possible. The area that is concentrated with many wild animals, it's possible. The hot spring, then the Ilala Sala with the game animal sites, is possible.
We know that the closest national park that we have to Addis Ababa is the Awash National Park. People can make it, particularly with the new expressway that runs all the way to Adama, makes it easier to get to the Awash National Park.
Yes.
And people will be treated to, variety of wildlife, particularly when they overnight in one of those, either obviously near lodge or the other one across the street.
Yeah.
Plenty of springs and lions roaring and everything. It's just amazing.
Bird watching as well.
Yeah, bird watching. It's a bird watcher's haven.
You are right. This express road and also the railway will have great advantage for tourists traveling and enjoying staying in this Awash National Park, and also Alaideke. It has a very good resource as well. But there is another fear that the express road is extending from Adama to Awash. That means crossing Awash National Park.
Which is separate city.
That's the proposed plan. You see, the express road crossing Awash National Park means it will be a devastating action. Corrective action should be taken. Imagine the railway, I just tell you what happened. Through their environmental impact assessment document, they were expected to develop about 6-7 pathways, underway or upper to the bridge. You see, they do that one. So the railway is crossing simply without any care of the wild animals, the wildlife crossing that park. We will work on that as well. There was an agreement with the Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority, but this railway, they are just start designing that. We already raised the question: what mitigation measures you have to take if this express road is going through? But we are still advising to do this express road to the northern boundary of the park. That will be just our prior advice to the government.
And it will be very expensive because it's basically a detour.
But destroying this national park is more than any billion of per. We have to think about that. Within 3-4 years' time, or if we develop this park and properly use the tourism sector as well, that is much higher than. We should not lose, miss our just heritage inside this park. It is a global asset as well, not alone the national or the local community there. Let me add something on the attractions of Awash National Park from the point of tourism as well. Imagine, I can say no protected area or any national park that can compete Awash with regard to variety of habitats that can attract tourists. Imagine there is a smoking mountain. It's called Fantale, still the dormant strato volcano, and related ashes. Within that, the hot springs. You can't get such kind of more than 1,000 springs coming out and finally form a river. Imagine from that mountain. So it's good from the point of climate change and also getting more water from that river to the downstream people. The plain area as a whole, for game animals, the gorge and the wash force, which is a grand force in Ethiopia. Even during the summer season, it is much super than the Blue Nile. But nobody recognizes that very well, I can say. So all these are very much great attractions for Awash. We have to exploit that.
I understand that you've started negotiations and given the promise to bring over 5 or 6 giraffes from Kenya. This is going to be a major plus to the Awash National Park.
Yes.
Where does it stand today?
Very fortunately, when we were communicating with donors from outside, and we are going to start this together with the government, we got information that from Kenya there is one reserve. It's a private, actually. They are going to sell or pass to somebody. We heard that one from, and my friend also got that information and start communicating. And finally, they are in a very good mood or support of this our plan. We start communicating with that, and they are very positive, at least to provide 3 females and 2 adult males. That's the minimum one. That should be committed through the support of our government and also the Kenyan government. But we will start to work with Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority. Hopefully they will be happy about this, because giraffe is a very rare animal, and it will add the most tourists promotional work for Awash National Park. So we should start building with these giraffes, and next by zebras and other animals, ostrich, something that in our plan. So we will make a very standard park. So we can do as long as we work together.
Good luck, and it was a pleasure having you again on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.